Alrighty, welcome to video 2 out of this attachment style series. In today's video, we're going to be talking about the anxious attachment style. What are some characteristics? An anxious attachment stems from an inconsistent childhood. So that would mean that one or both parents were emotionally available for the child, but on a inconsistent basis. Subconsciously, this person feels a fear of abandonment. This person will also self-sacrifice in order to stay in a relationship because of the fear of abandonment. This child experienced support, but like I said before, it was inconsistent. So there may have been one or both parents that have showed up, that have been there emotionally, but then were not available. It was taken away from them. Then it was given a little bit, then it wasn't for a period of time. And since their parents were the first person they've attached themselves to in a relationship, if they're attaching themselves to somebody else, they think that will happen as well. Another situation that would make somebody have an anxious attachment style is if one parent was always there and one parent was never there. There was always that feeling of one parent abandoned me. One was there, but one person was never there. Again, there could be many different scenarios where an anxious attachment has been, created within the person, but the main thing is that there was emotional support, but that emotional support was a roller coaster, and it prevented the child from always having their needs met, or most of the time having their needs met. People with an anxious attachment style have, like I said, a subconscious fear of abandonment, which makes the person constantly want to people please, to keep people close, to say, don't leave me. So I'll do this for you, I'll do that for you, yes, yes, yes. To have a little understanding on the subconscious mind and attachment styles, we all know that if somebody undergoes a really traumatic experience, that will have a huge impact on the person, right? It has been proven that having many frequent little experiences that has let down the person in a way, has made them feel less than, has not gotten their emotional needs met over and over again in smaller scenarios can have just the same or even a higher impact on the person. So for example, the dismissive avoidant is on one end of the spectrum where they don't need anybody, they don't need to rely on anybody, they don't want to let anybody in, they want to push people away. And then the anxious attachment style is on the other end where they don't want anyone to leave them because they have felt left before, they have a fear of abandonment, they like to be connected and feel close and be vulnerable. So those are two different ends of the spectrum. Out of all the attachment styles, the anxious attachment style needs to learn how to self-soothe. The way you start to do that is learning to understand yourself as an individual on a deep level. Asking yourself about the emotions that you feel, asking yourself what it is that you need in this moment, and maybe thinking about why. Notice what is emotionally triggering for you. What's really important for the anxious attachment style to remember is that if your dismissive avoidant partner pulls away from you in a slight way, it is not because they don't want you or love you anymore. It is because that is their attachment style. So they're working through their own thing at the same time as you're working through yours. Remembering that that is the reason why they're doing that and not because they don't want you is going to help you not get triggered or work through the triggers. And if you're able to remember that these triggers are coming from childhood and the fear of abandonment and not because of what is actually the reality of the situation, that will help you calm down and work through the situation better without feeling so anxious about it. And that is called self-soothing. We need to be able to make a distinction between our past and our present, what is going on now versus what has gone on and what we think is going on. We need to make that distinction. So asking yourselves those questions when you're feeling the trigger come about is key to self-soothing. And that is basically teaching the subconscious mind that your reality is now different than your childhood. Most people with anxious attachment style often forget about their own needs, so they look for outside connection rather than giving themselves the emotional attention that they need as well. And this could sometimes trick the brain into thinking that we need others in order to be okay. For example, writing down over and over again in your journal a couple times a day, I am safe, I can rely on myself, I don't need anybody else to get my needs met. Those are things that an anxious attachment styled person would want to do. So first you can identify the situation, figure out what it is you're feeling, and then you could ask yourself, what meaning do I want to give to that situation? Do I feel not good enough, not interesting enough? Do I feel abandonment? What meaning do I want to give? And then you can question those meanings. Are those meanings true? Think about if they are true. All of this is meant to undo what we have learned until this moment. Look how long it took to get to this point, so now we need to do some work to undo that. All of these are stories, right, that we're telling ourselves, like a little inner narrative that we think is true. So then we have to find reasons why the inner dialogue that we're telling ourselves, the meanings, the stories are not true. So why are you an interesting person? Etc. Sometimes the things that we are most scared of do sometimes happen. If you think of it enough and you talk that way to yourself enough, sometimes these things do come to life. So if it does, finding a way to ask yourself, okay, how can I bounce back from this? What is great about this situation that I can figure out, okay, I have more time for this now. I can work on myself now, which is work I obviously need to do. Find ways to feel okay about the situation and look at the bright side is basically what we can do at that point. And the last thing I'll say for anxious attachment is once that person is really good at working on themselves and self-soothing and meeting their own needs, that is when they will be able to best love themselves and love somebody else. So that is it for today's video on the anxious attachment style and ways you can overcome that. I would love for you to like this video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and hit the bell so that you get notified every time I post a new video. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.